Timmons, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hey, Andy, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it, too.
And I love your new CD. We're here to talk about Electric Truth, which is coming out April 1st. So it's really, really great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks for checking it out. I appreciate that so much.
And I've always been a big fan of yours, too, even back from the Danger days.
You're older than I thought then, maybe.
Yes, we're probably the same age, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that goes back to roughly 1989, I suppose.
Right.
So.
I used to see you in Studio One and Club Benet. So I'm showing my age right there. Yes.
Well, you're definitely showing your location in New Jersey, solidly in New Jersey with Club Benet and Studio One. But very fond memories. You know, what a couple of great rock and roll venues back in the day.
Yes.
Are they still there? Are those people still there? Or?
They're gone. I don't think they exist at all.
Like most of the great old clubs, I suppose, you know.
Yeah, I know, and Studio One's not there either. You know, we do have a new one called Starland Ballroom, which is really good. It's been around for quite some time. So,
what town is that?
Bon Jovi's hometown, Sayreville.
Sayreville, of course. Beautiful, awesome, man.
Yeah, so maybe you come out here someday and you could play it and come.
I would love that. I would love to come to Sayreville. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. So some artists were very creative during the 2021 pandemic, and others felt very stagnant and uninspired. It seems like you were very productive during your downtime.
I mean, in some ways, I mean, my home life was no different because I'm either in my studio or my office, both outfitted with guitar rigs, and I tend to spend most of my time, we're not dealing with biz or whatever. It's just trying to be creative, and so I wrote an awful lot. But I saw a friend of mine on Facebook right when things kind of shut down, and I was trying to figure out, what are we going to do? A buddy of mine, his name Jarrett Reddick. He's a singer for a band called Bowling for Soup, and I kept seeing these posts about, hey, I'm going to be on stage at Saturday. 2 p.m., 8 p.m., right? And I thought, so I just reached out to him. We're not close, but we know each other well enough. So I can send him a note and say, "Hey, man, show me the ropes here. How do I do this?" And he hooked me up with the technical folks at Stage It, and kind of got me up and running. But the funny thing was that I thought he was doing 2 shows on the Saturday. What his post meant was like, well, it's 2 p.m. U.S., 8 p.m. U.K. because he's got a big fan base in the U.K.
Right.
But I had it in my head. Oh, you do 2 shows? All right, great. I'll do 2 shows every Saturday, and I did one at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. And so, but I mean, it was kind of a pretty crazy work ethic that I had to get into because I would do 2 different shows every Saturday. So it was quite a bit of work to kind of juggle all that. But again. It was a gig, and I guess I would have doubled my gigs by having that mentality. So I think it was over 140 by whatever it was into last year.
Awesome.
So yeah, I was fortunate to have that kind of focus, but then also I was finishing up what became the Electric Truth record and writing a bunch of other material. Like I think a lot of artists couldn't help but we had all this time on our hands. So good time to be creative and try to. Yeah.
It is. You couldn't.
Get the sun going. Yeah.
Between your matinee performance and your primetime performance, you were able to get some work done about the solo albums. That's awesome.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I would say I had enough time to either have lunch or take a nap or figure out, or practice more for the second show. Yeah.
That's a great story. You really explored different types of playing on this album, primarily the blues and jazz, in my personal opinion. What else do you feel you incorporated that maybe I didn't pick up on?
Well, it's a lifetime. I mean, every time, I think I can speak for every artist. Every time you step back into the studio or you write a new song, you're furthering along whatever journey you're on. All your collective experiences, musically and personally, are kind of leading up to that moment. You know what I mean? It's like it's like every gig I do. That gig is the most important gig I do. So I treat every recording and every gig like, hey, this is it. I gotta step up and do my best. Not that there's that huge pressure. It's just a matter of the goal is to. I hope I'm growing. And the beauty of this record for me was that I kind of went outside my circle in that it's not an Andy Timmons Band record. Mm-hmm. It's very much just a solo record. And I met the great guitar player Josh Smith, was decidedly from the blues world, but it has a lot of jazz and rock and country influence like I do, right? So I just became a fan of his playing when I was seeing just YouTube videos, and we met telephonically. I basically, found his number and called him just to say, hey, man, I love your playing. I love what you're doing. And we became friends, and he just invited me to his studio. Said, hey, man, I just finished my home studio. Come record. And it just kind of struck me like, yeah, let's do this. But I said, look, I want you to produce, and I want you to pick the band, because I always loved the bands that he put together for his own stuff, which is very kind of funky, bluesy, rock kind of stuff, right? Which just hits home with me, even though I don't write, ordinarily in that style. There's definitely some stuff on this record that I wrote kind of towards that vein, but then also by nature of having Josh as the producer in his band, it's going to have a different flavor. It's going to bring different parts of my personality out,
Yeah, I thought it was well produced. Awesome.
Well, yeah, thank you. That's a lot of that's just the way the band plays, my sound, Josh steering the ship, and a great recording engineer named Alan Hertz, who's actually he's a great drummer as well, but a killer engineer. I do love the sound of the record. I like the drum and bass sound particularly,
Yeah,
the guitar's all right.
Yeah.
if you like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the guitar.
Who would pay attention to the drums and the bass? Man.
Right.
You'll have a good time, and you might just dance a little bit. Get your boogie on.
Was there anything that you did on this CD, maybe that you've never done before, that put you out of your comfort zone of playing?
I think some of the things I love is that I've had a tendency with some of my later records to really fine-tune the performance, meaning that if I don't like what I played live, I'll re-record it or, work on it for weeks and just perfect every note. But there's a lot of stuff on this record that was performed live with the band, like the first single EWF, which is very much kind of a loving tribute to Al McKay from Earth, Wind & Fire, right? Hence the thinly veiled EWF initials. And so I love that. I mean, and there might have been a note here and there that, let me fix that, or let me get a better performance. We just left it because the vibe was so cool in the room that it just, to change anything wouldn't have made sense. So I like that, at least I was well practiced enough at that point to recognize, that what I played in the moment is really going to be the best thing. So not the entire record is like that. There's another track called Shuggy that's live, with a couple overdubs. But then there's some of the ballads I would have gone in and really try to keep just a cohesive take, but I might have a few stabs at it, so to speak, like Grace or When Words Fail. Which the ballads for me are always kind of the home. Those kind of tend to be my comfort zone, just because I find them wonderful, vehicles for expression, and it's a good way to pour your heart into stuff. But so I think the record has kind of a good combination of all that.
It is.
Stuff that's a bit outside my comfort zone. But the other thing that might have been outside my comfort zone or my normal path, it's not really a discomfort, but it was a joy to have a guy like Josh, at the helm, so to speak, where, it's usually me or my bass player or my engineer that either co-producing or producing with me. But to have a really great guitar player, that was different, for me.
Yeah.
They're all great musicians. All my guys are great musicians, but it's different when it's a guitar player's ears in the room. So I think that probably affected me wanting to step up even a little bit more, right? Because I've got my brother over there could play circles around me, so let's step it up. You know what I mean? And Josh plays on the track called Johnny T, which he wrote specifically for me for the record. And I got to say, I think it's the best solo on the record. He just plays this killing solo. We trained a little bit at the end. I think when most people, that are fans of Josh's or mine found out Josh and Andy are doing a record together, I think they thought it was going to be this kind of guitar battle thing. But neither one of us wanted that. It's like, let's just make a cool record, and so far the response has been great. I'm real happy with it.
Cool. You touched upon this earlier in your response about spontaneity. When you're recording your solos, are you doing them live, or are you working them out note for note prior to recording them?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, some of these, like I say, like EWF and Shuggy would have been live with the band, and they're my two favorite solos that I did on the record. I think, you know what I mean? Now, but a majority of the other solos are improvised as well. But I might have taken multiple takes
Okay.
and then chosen the one I wanted. But I did not. But as opposed to like a record like Resolution, which dates back, that's an Andy Timmons Band record from 2006. That's a what you would call a through composed record, meaning by the time I had those arrangements and what I wanted to play, nearly every note was pre-planned. I knew exactly in my head what I wanted it to sound like. And it took me a minute to kind of give myself permission to do that, because that's kind of antithetical to the jazz improviser. You know, he's got to be a live, fresh take, or I'd say jazz, even the studio musician, you know, like a Lukather or Carlton, some of my other heroes outside of the jazz world. You know, that would be their ethos. And so the Electric Truth record is much more like that, you know. Okay. Some of it's live with the band, and if I did have to overdub it here at the house, because that was the thing, we did the record in 2 days with the band, and then I had half a day before having to go to, Josh and I were playing at the NAMM show, that's why I was in Anaheim, and we got to do those dates. So I was going to fly back in March. This is 2020. Right. So obviously nobody flew anywhere in March, and I had to finish it at my studio here, which is not the way we wanted to do it, but it was the only way we can get it finished. And so I tried to keep as much of that, you know, live aspect to it, in that, you know, I didn't compose the solos, but I would, if I didn't like what I played, I'd just do it again. Got it. But that's also the beauty of having Josh sitting next to me in the room. It's like, no, that was great. Okay, let's move on. Where I would have gone, let me try it again. You know? Yeah, keep noodling. So it's good to have another set of ears that you really respect. But I think we captured, you know, like I said, a different side of my personality, and because it might have brought out a bit more blues and funk, and certainly some of the more of the jazzy fusion stuff sneaking in. And that's fun for me. I love doing projects like that. I did a record called the Redcoats the previous year, which was with Greg and Matt Bissonette, which is total fusion and funk, and they sent me the tracks. I just overdubbed it at my studio. So that was fun too, because it'll bring out a different side of my playing, because I'll do plenty of my own records, and I love that too. So, because I love so many different styles of music, it's nice to have that outlet, kind of explore that.
You know, are you conscious of balancing your technique and keeping the melody fresh while writing and recording? Like on the second song, which I'm going to butcher the name, Apoc Girl.
It's called Apocryphal.
Apocryphal, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. Jersey guy.
It is a tough one. It's not a common word, but it's a very descriptive term. Yeah.
I had to go look it up on the internet, and I still butchered it. But yeah.
Well, thanks for the effort. I'm impressed with the effort. Yeah.
I tried. So tell me about that. You know, the conscious balance of the two.
That's an interesting thing, and I talked at length about this yesterday with a great friend of mine, Andy Aladort, that produces my column for Guitar World magazine, and it's very much, you know, I think it's a maturing thing that over time, you know, early on in our guitar careers, we're guitar players, and we're playing guitaristic things. But the more the composer side of myself and just the lover of great melody comes through, then I tend to be definitely more aware of that. I'm first and foremost still a guitar player, so that part of my ego, you might call it, or that part of my compositional mind, it's going to sneak in, and I think that's cool, because I love guitar playing for guitar playing's sake. But I would say always winning for me is melody over technique. You know, in any musical situation, I just want to play what seems cool and right in the moment. So if it's a soulful ballad, I don't need to play a lot of notes. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a song on the record called "When Words Fail," which the title even kind of speaks to my feelings about it, you know, because the spoken word and the written language is very finite, and we can choose specific things to say and try to communicate and put things together a certain way. But I feel that the musical language, the expressiveness of certain instruments, like a violin or certainly the guitar, I think can dig a bit deeper. And there's a place in the first chorus of "When Words Fail," and the second chorus as well. The first 4 bars, I don't play anything, and it's the chorus. Yeah. So that's pretty unusual. I just there's some backing guitars that are kind of playing this arpeggio. I just let the chords take over. Like, I don't have to play anything. That's beautiful. Yeah. And then when I do say something, when I play something, it has that much more weight, because like, wow, okay, well, what are you going to say? What are we waiting for here? And hopefully it's beautiful, and hopefully it has some impact. And I think it does. So but then the back half of the chorus is very notey. So it's kind of an interesting study of, well, you can say nothing, you can say a little bit, or you can say a lot, as long as it serves that compositional arc of what I'd like to communicate, and that can be, an improvised solo, or that can be a composed melody. But either one I think is coming from the same place. We're just wanting to play something that we would love personally, and then of course you hope other folks resonate with that.
No, that's a great response. And on my personal favorite tune was "Take Me With You." It's a real rocking song, It starts off very subtle, and then it explodes. I'm assuming that's you singing it, right?
No, actually, I do sing on some of my stuff, but it's a guy locally here in Dallas that I asked to come sing these tunes. His name's Corry Pertile.
Okay.
Corry, and then Pertile, Pertile. And I just met him, a friend of mine, Nick Knerk, a great guitar player, friend of mine in town, he'd done a duo record with them, and the guy just has a lovely, soulful voice. And so we'd done a couple of gigs together, just doing cover tunes. But I had these two songs, Say What You Want and Take Me With You. I'd written all the melody, and I'd had like half the lyrics. And I just gave him the chorus, and then see what you hear, you see what you come up with lyrically. So he finished the lyrics, and then came in and sang the tunes. And I think he did a great job. And I love his voice. And sometimes for the guitar player who sings, they don't always like to hear the sound of their own voice. So that would be me. I mean, sometimes I like my singing, but it's great to have. It was with Neil on guitar and that band. It's like, let's get somebody that really does this. And I think he has a great sound and really delivered, the vibe of the tune that I was looking for.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with that situation. Yeah. Yes, it doesn't always come across. They need a singer. So, but it sounded a little bit like what I imagined you to sound like. But yes, I got it.
Well, it's definitely he unfortunately had to try to sing how I had envisioned it. So he was kind of stuck to my phrasing, which for some singers I've learned over time is like, yeah, but you sing how you play. So it's not necessarily a usual thing, and sometimes rhythmically it can be a little challenging. But he did. I think he did a great job. And thank you for the drawing the parallel there.
Yeah, and was there ever consideration to doing more songs like that, more rocking on this album, or perhaps you're going to do another album where you're going to let it loose with rock songs?
I mean, the rock part of me is always there, and I've got quite a bit of material that would be exactly what you're talking about. It's just kind of figuring out the right way to finish it and what project it would be part of. But I love, it's like I love every bit of all of it, you know what I mean? And I think there was maybe a bit of a direction for me for this record in that, hey, I'm going to do it with Josh, so let me write some things that I think might be kind of cool for us to collaborate on. And then, like, Take Me With You, I already kind of started writing before that and thought, here's a cool tune. Let's try this. And it's got a bit of the Foo Fighters kind of rock at the end, which I'm a big fan of. You know what I mean? And so I love that energy. And I definitely think I've got a three more of those kind of records in me. You know what I mean? I'd like to do a more straight, up kind of rock record.
Yeah, I think you still have it from Danger Danger. I think it's in there. I'd love to hear it.
It never goes away. I mean, I grew up in the 70s just playing all the 70s arena rock from Kiss and Rush.
Yes.
Nugent and Foghat, REO, that's my stomping ground. That's no matter what, I went on to study classical and jazz, and I played every imaginable thing on the guitar. And I love it all. I really do. I love it all equally. But first and foremost, that's home. So that's always going to be a natural thing that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's my bullseye too. That's my passion. That's my love. And Danger fell right into it. How did you join Danger Danger? You don't seem like the typical. Hearing this background that you've been talking about, you don't sound like the typical rock guy, long hair.
Yeah.
That's that situation, like hair metal band, which I hate that phrase, but you know where I'm going with it.
I know. Well, it is what it was. But no, it was kind of it was a circuitous route. Let's just say that, because as I mentioned, I had that 70s rock, foundation, then went on to study in college with classical, and then transferring to Miami to study jazz, and I'd become a very, very versatile, well-rounded player. But then, about 1988, I formed my own trio in Denton, Texas, called the Andy Timmons Band. I thought that was a brilliant title. And we started gigging around it, because Six Riani and Vine, Yngwie and Deron Johnson, all those players are really quite well known, and there was had records on the charts and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I just want to do that, you know. So we did some recordings and started gigging around, and that demo tape circulated quite a bit, and it got into the hands of Buddy Blaze, and Buddy was the artist relations guy for Kramer Guitars at the time.
Right.
And even though he was in New Jersey, in Neptune, where Kramer was, he was from this area. He was a big part of Dimebag's early career, built a lot of those guitars.
Yes, I remember, right.
Anyway, so he knew this band, Danger Danger, that needed a guitar player, because I guess Bruno was he was a Spectre bass endorsee, which was Kramer, and they just kind of put the feelers out and solicited demo tapes, and they got, you know, probably hundreds of cassette tapes from guitar players all over the country, but somehow mine kind of rose to the top, and I flew up 2 different times to audition. But yeah, it was like, don't cut your hair and lose 10 pounds. You know, all right, whatever. You know, and for me it was weird. What age was I at that time? I would have been, 24, maybe years old, 23, 24. And so it's not like I'd given up on, being a rock star in a rock band, but it really wasn't on my radar anymore. I was just trying to be a great musician, you know.
Yes.
And so, but for that offer to come along, I definitely recognized that, hey, this is a great opportunity. You know, these guys have already got a record deal. They've already recorded the record. Actually, when I came in, they were remixing the record with Mike Stone, so I got to re-record a couple of the solos. Tony Bruno did the record, but he already had Soraya,
right,
and didn't want to join the band. So they basically thought, well, let's do the record, and then we'll hire a guy to be our live guy and join the band. And that was me. So the second record, Screw It, was the first one I had full input and got to record the whole thing. So, but as the session guy that I wanted to be, that was that was more my dream come true than being in a rock band on MTV, which was cool. But hey, I'm on a record. My name's in the credits. You know, that was at the time in my career, that was kind of seemingly the holy grail, right? That seemed like I won the lottery at this point, even though I had to work hard to win the lottery. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I made that comment to a guy when I first started getting success in the band, and he said, "How did you get like the same question you asked me?" He said, "How did you get the gig in Danger Danger?" And I would just very humbly said, "Well, I guess I got lucky."
Yeah.
And he didn't get in my face, but he turned around and said, "No, you did not. You worked your ass off your whole life, and you were ready when the opportunity came." And so I knew he was right. I mean, because that was very accurate. I very blindly went about my career. I didn't go, okay, I'm going to go in for this particular thing. I just worked hard because I loved it, and I was always gigging. So I could have done anything. In fact, when I got the Danger Danger offer, I also had an offer from Tower of Power to join that band.
Okay, yeah.
So look at that that's a fork in the road, man.
Yes.
It's like, it couldn't be two more different, types of bands, but I guess the allure of the glitz and glitter of MTV and that thing kind of won out. And yeah, who knows how things would have been different, but I wouldn't change anything, because I love that time of my life. I love the guys in the band dearly. They're all brothers, and we went through a lot together. It's not easy.
Yep.
You always see these, behind the music. Why are these guys having such a miserable time? All they got to do is make music,
and talk to each other.
Once you're living on a bus 24/7, and people are earning different levels of income, it gets complicated. And you start, and then just personalities, man. It's bound to. Anybody you live with, there's going to be trouble, right?
I agree. So, I get it.
But anyway, at the end of the day, I love all of them, and it's a brotherhood, and I'll never have that relationship with anybody else in my life, because that was a pretty intense couple of years, 3 years, where you're on tour and you're we were kind of like mildly famous. We never got to the Def Leppard, Bon Jovi level, but enough to where walking down the right street, you might get recognized. I remember my first brush with any kind of notoriety was I was just walking down the street in Queens. I was living in Flushing at the time, and me and my buddy Bill Bush were just walking down the street to go to the grocery, and these 2 younger girls passed by, and they look at me and say, "You look like Andy Timmons." And I go, "What?" She goes, "I am." She goes, "Yeah," and I'm Ace Frehley. Like she couldn't believe that I was this guy, right? So that was, it's like, what? That's an interesting feeling. But anyway, all that to say with that, it's like at the end of the day, but it really wasn't why I wanted to play guitar. I love that the artistic and musician side of it, and that's what I continue to do today. So that's very fond memories. We did a set of reunion gigs a few years ago, and maybe we'll do it again. We'll see. I never say never. So
that'd be awesome. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I used to live in Bergen County. We had the Bergen Mall. And Ted and Bruno are from that area, so they would constantly be walking around the mall with the black leather jacket with the Danger Danger logo on the back. And people were flocking to them.
I lived with Ted in '89, so that was probably the mall we had gone to.
Yes.
If there was a Chick-fil-A there, that was the one.
No, I don't think Chick-fil-A exists. Well, no, that was Paramus Park. Paramus Park had the Chick-fil-A.
You're right. Okay, it was Paramus. You're right.
Right. But they hit all the malls. They were at every mall with the jacket.
Well, if you're going to get recognized, the mall girls,
Yeah, and if you can wear the jacket that says Danger DD on the back, that helps too.
I've still got it, man. I've still got my jacket. So you might catch me at the Bergen Mall then next Saturday.
That would be awesome.
Though the demographic might look a little different these days. But they probably still have the same haircut, though. The same hairdo. The little front flip,
Yeah, that's awesome. I got a tough question for you. Danger Danger Cockroach, all right? Band shared two versions of the same album, one with Ted singing and the other with Paul Lane singing. How did that transpire? What was the reaction for both of them? And which did you like better? Can you pinpoint one?
I love both of them. The band was falling apart. The industry was changing. Ted had issues with Steve and Bruno. There was a lawsuit. He left the band. So the label was just like, well, let's redo, because the record was finished. Let's find a new singer. Let's just redo the vocals. And so that's Paul Lane came in when we were mixing up in the studio in Morin Heights, famous Canadian studio. And that's the only day that I met him. He was coming to do the vocals. I had done some acoustic guitar on the bonus track that's on the Paul version, Time in a Bottle. Because Ted, nobody sounds like Ted.
True.
I mean, he's such a unique voice, and to me, that's the sound of Danger Danger.
I agree.
Paul Lane's got a voice that I love too, and I think he did a phenomenal job. It was a very unfortunate time because, of course, the record then just eventually got shelved because of the lawsuits and the industry changing, and that was the turning point in my life and my career because I thought, why would I work so hard on something that doesn't belong to me? They made it impossible for us to get the rights to the record.
Oh, wow. And thank you so much for your time. And real quick, I like Ted Poley when he sang like the fun party songs, and I like Paul more on the songs that were more emotional and heartfelt. That's my personal opinion.
Like Afraid of Love is a great Paul Lane track.
Exactly.
He's kind of got that. He's got that David Coverdale kind of really.
Yep, pulls you in.
Yeah,
great.
But I love both those guys. Great singers, really wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. Awesome interview. Very insightful, very inspiring. Thank you very much.
Robert, thank you. Well, hopefully we'll have more time next time.
Sounds good, buddy.
Sorry to cut it off.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Okay.
For all our listeners, a reminder that Andy Timmons' new studio record, Electric Truth, will be out on April 1st on Mascot Records. Also, remember this interview is available on several platforms including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and of course on our websites and social media sites. To close up, here's the first single from Andy's new album. This is Earth, Wind, and Fire.